This is a spaceship, a virtual spaceship, for traveling in time, fueled up and ready to go. Let's blast off on a journey to the Time Warp Tavern, a friendly pub with a difference. Join Russell and Lawrence there as they revisit their experiences of life as two young boys growing up in the 1960s.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.
What will they be talking about today?
In the shop, they pretty much had to stay open most of the time. No, you had to be pretty careful.
Certain times you just work yourself up into a frenzy and you get so overexcited about things.
Well, that's right, yeah.
There were just certain times in your childhood when that would happen.
Yeah, all the normal rules just sort of go out the window.
Well, one of my most nostalgic memories, and probably the time when I'd be most likely to get overexcited, would be childhood Christmas.
Oof. Childhood Christmas. Yeah.
The period leading up to Christmas. I mean, we didn't have that big build-up that you get now. I mean, you see the seasons change in the shop windows now, almost before the summer holidays are over.
Oh, yes.
Ridiculous.
Actually, I was in Tesco a few months ago. It might have even been August.
Yeah.
And there was a section with Christmas stuff. And I thought, this is ridiculous.
August, yeah.
But there was a sign and it said, this is a bit of clever marketing, helping you spread the cost of Christmas.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Helping us to spend your money over a longer period of time, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, what do I want? I don't really want anything. There's nothing that I can say, if only I had that.
I mean, if ever there was a true spirit of Christmas that wasn't commercial, it's been completely lost.
Doesn't exist anymore, really.
But we didn't really think about it in those terms in those days, did we? It was just sheer magic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you wake up on Christmas morning. First thing you see, Santa's been, hasn't he?
And the old chap.
The old chap's been, there's a Beano annual and a Dandy annual, if you're lucky, at the end of the bed.
Was that your marker as to whether Christmas was successful or not, if you got a Beano or Dandy annual?
If they're on the end of the bed, then you know he's been.
Right.
And also, hanging over the edge of the bedstead, a Mars Christmas selection stocking.
Yeah, that's right.
With that horrible plastic
netting sort of thing, yeah.
So even before 7 o'clock in the morning, you've already made yourself sick with a Mars bar bounty topic.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you eat them that quickly?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. And also, there's that wonderful aroma of the print when you open up the Beano. So you're reading Billy Whiz, stuffing your face with a Mars bar, and it's still, no one else has got out of bed yet.
Did you used to write a letter to Santa? I did. My mum encouraged me to ask what I'd like for Christmas.
I think I did when I was very young.
Yeah, it did used to puzzle me. I think, he's got so many people to take care of. How does he know? And I can actually remember sending the letter, putting it in the post box, addressed to Santa Lapland or whatever. I was thinking, how's he going to get that? It's not a very specific address.
He was a bit like Jesus Christ, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was sort of omnipresent.
Yeah.
But you sort of just accepted it.
That's right, yeah.
When I'd wake up in the morning and I'd see the presents at the end of bed.
Yeah.
And I used to think, well, that proves it. He has been.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, if you had any doubts, there's your evidence. He has been.
And you didn't question at all. You think about it now, how hard your parents must have worked after you'd gone to bed to get it all done.
Yeah. It was all about the anticipation was just as good, if not better, than the actual thing itself.
Can you remember the last few days of school before Christmas? The excitement and the anticipation.
Yes. As I recall, we would have like a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And they'd actually provide food for you in the school canteen.
I seem to remember that as well, particularly when we were in infant school. I seem to remember it was like jelly and stuff like that.
Yes, and then they would have games and things.
Yeah. It was all right, but I mean, you just wanted that to be over so you could just go home then, because you thought, well, this is the end of term. Christmas begins after this, doesn't it?
Yeah. We used to have a Christmas concert,
Did you?
and everybody had to be involved. And I hated the idea
Yes.
of being on stage. And
Oh, yeah.
So this would probably be like an afternoon thing. And all the parents, all the mums would be there on the wooden chairs in the hall. And there was some sort of nativity thing going on. And I remember this tremendous feeling of relief once it was over.
Yes, that's right, yeah. It reminds me, I was roped into a nativity play one year at infant school. I've got a photo of me in it somewhere. Just a bit part. I was in the background. I think I might have been one of the disciples or something. It's awful when you've got kids that are trying to dress as old people, isn't it? It's awful. Fake beards and everything. One year, a little bit later in junior school, I made the mistake of letting it be known to my music teacher that I played piano and I knew about music a little bit. Before I knew it, I was being roped in to play chime bars on the Christmas Carol in the main hall on the stage, and I had to sort of stand on there and play these few notes.
Wow.
I really didn't want to do it. So I was so intent on not playing the wrong notes,
Yeah.
I got it right, and I think they were pleased with it, but I thought, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Because all eyes were on you, you just don't want that, do you?
Not that age. Now, I think it was my first year at primary school, so I was 5 years old, and it was coming up to Christmas.
Yeah.
And I remember it was dark outside.
Yes.
And we were all ushered into this little area at the end of the corridor, and Father Christmas came in, and it was actually Mr. Byford, who was the school janitor.
Oh, right, okay. So that blew it a bit for you, didn't it?
But it was another case of that's Father Christmas, but it's also Mr. Byford. Okay. But there's still something weird here.
Yeah.
Anyway, he came in and he handed out gifts. And he handed me a little toy harmonica made by a company called Bluebird, which I've still got. I've still got it and it still works.
Right. So some nice vintage saliva in that one now, shouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
All dried out.
The mould.
Yeah. I remember once when I was quite young still, my mum took me into a department store near to where we lived called Fishpools, a week or two before Christmas, and there was like Santa's grotto in there.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I wanted to go in because I wanted the present, but on the other hand, I was so shy. So she sort of led me in, and when she sat me down in there, he was asking me all these questions about what I wanted. I just froze. I couldn't answer him.
I'd like to get off your lap if that's okay.
I wasn't actually on his lap, but I was sitting next to him. I was quite intimidated by his appearance and all the beard and everything, So it was a case of give him his present, let him go on his way sort of thing. Yeah. I seem to think it was something like a box with a Chinese checkers game in it or something. But I never did that again.
My mum took myself and my cousin Melanie to Suter's department store.
Right.
4 or 5 floors. And the top floor was the toy department.
Ah, yes.
And we went in. And then you go through this little doorway like a curtain and sit in this seat. And in front of you, there's these 2 reindeer made out of wood or hardboard. And they start kind of going up and down. There's a bit of Christmas music. I thought, well, we're on our way to Fairyland now. And that went on for a couple of minutes. Yeah. And then you got out and you imagined you were in Santa's grotto all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I find it slightly scary, but you don't want late middle-aged men with beards growling at you. No.
And you used to get the feeling that the jollity was a bit enforced and that they were a bit grumpy really underneath all that,
It's not really what you want.
No, that's why I wouldn't talk,
Well, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be all right if it had been a female Santa.
Yeah, if it was a nice sort of matronly sort of auntie type,
Yeah, but some bloke with a beard and a deep voice.
I think what would have done it for you had been a nice female Santa, like somebody like Susan Bourne, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or Muriel Young.
Oh, Muriel Young, yeah.
Oh, that'd been great.
I think I would have been quite happy to sit on one of their laps, yeah. Although I got quite a lot of presents I wanted. I mean, that was one aspect of Christmas that I never got. I didn't get the Santa I wanted. Leading up to Christmas, I mean, as a kid, it was like the height of my year.
Of course.
But it was really only in that last few weeks, from the start of December, really, when the Christmas promotion used to really begin in those days, didn't it?
Well, yes, and you'd start to get all of the Christmas TV adverts coming in, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that really gave you a sense of expectation, didn't it?
Yeah, I remember the De Kuyper advert.
De Kuyper, yeah.
With Patrick Cargill. When you're looking for a cherry brandy this Christmas, ask for Key Diaper, a die keeper, a keep dyer. When you're asking for a cherry brandy this Christmas, ask for Die Kuiper.
Yeah, I remember I've not seen it from that day to this, but I'd like to see it. Yeah, actually, that was another thing. Sort of early in December, I used to look forward to. We used to get the TV magazines.
Oh, the Radio Times and TV Times Christmas special.
That's right.
Oh,
in the days when they were separate listings magazines, weren't they?
yeah, because it used to have like 2 weeks worth of stuff.
2 weeks, yeah. I used to sit down on the floor, used to lay sort of outstretched, with the magazines in front of me.
Yes.
A pad and pen next to me, and I'd write down all the programmes that, I look forward to seeing over Christmas, and schedules and everything.
Yeah.
I would spend a whole afternoon doing that when they first came out,
As I recall, there'd be a period before Christmas when we would be starting to put up the decorations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in those days, we would have had a traditional tree.
Yeah.
But all of the ornaments would be the same every year.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you remember those things? It was like made out of cardboard, and there was like a metal clip, and you'd unclip it, and it unfolded. It was like a bell.
A bell, yes, I remember those.
A multicoloured bell.
Yeah, they used to open up like a concertina, didn't they?
That's right, and then you'd fold it all the way back, and then the metal clip would bend round.
That's right,
You'd hook it on, and the hook was probably still there from last year.
Yeah, it was usually drawing pins, I think we used to use.
Oh, drawing pins.
Yeah, you could put them into the ceiling with the minimum disruption to the plaster.
Yes, and then you'd make paper chains.
Yeah, they were just strips of coloured paper that were slightly gummed, weren't they? Yeah.
And after you've done about a dozen of those, your tongue's...
That's right. I think in our house it would be about a week before Christmas and we would start hanging paper chains and hanging the stuff up.
Yeah.
We always used to decorate the tree in the afternoon, so it would be about 3 o'clock, 3:30 time. It was just at the time when it was drawing in, so that when you finished it off with the fairy lights, you'd switch them on and you got the glow of the lights in the room because it was drawing in.
Yes, and a nice atmosphere.
Yeah.
And did you have an advent calendar?
Yeah, because you always think, what's going to be in the next one? What's going to be in the next one? As you open another little window,
Simple pleasures.
Yeah, simple it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
I remember we had a little plastic manger, the baby and everything. That would take pride of place.
Yeah.
Even though we weren't religious.
That's right. Yeah, my mum liked all that stuff. She was really one for all the sentimentality of Christmas and all that,
Did you have a real Christmas tree?
Yeah, we did. We had one for many, many years, actually. And I think in the end, my parents got fed up with all the needles falling everywhere and all that.
Yeah.
And we used to go and buy it at the greengrocers. Probably a week or so before Christmas. They used to have a whole batch of them, like, tied up, weren't they?
Yes.
I remember going with my dad, but because it was a real one, you couldn't buy it too long before Christmas because it was all start dropping,
We had a real Christmas tree and we always had the same decorations, which were normally baubles made out of glass. And then my mum and I would get cotton wool and tear off little bits of cotton wool and drop it on the tree because it would like snow.
Yeah.
Probably highly flammable.
Yeah.
But
we used to have like a cardboard box with all their decorations in.
Of course,
it used to come out of the loft and then go back in about 2 weeks after Christmas,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always the same things, wasn't it, basically? Fairy lights.
Yeah.
Last few days before Christmas. Christmas Eve and the day before Christmas Eve were usually the most exciting of the days.
Yes.
My dad would sort of walk through sometimes and saying, the old chap's coming soon. And I don't think I really gave it much thought, but I was quite happy to go along with the lie sort of thing, and I wanted to believe it, so I didn't even give it any thought until I was a bit older,
Yeah.
What's the earliest Christmas you remember?
Well, I think that was the 1963 Beano Annual.
63, right,
Which, of course, would have arrived on Christmas Day 62.
I like the way you remember Christmases by reference to the Beano.
Yeah, on the front cover, it was, do you remember Jonah?
Jonah, yes.
He was supposed to be so ugly that there's a picture of him running up the gangplank to go into the ship. And on the back page, there's a picture of him arriving on the ship and everyone else leaping out of windows to get away from him.
I was just thinking, one of the earliest memories I've got of Christmas, or leading up to Christmas, I think it was either 1961 or 62, so I was very young.
Yeah.
We were still sharing a house with my grandparents. Me and my mum walked into the front room and we went down a few minutes too early and I caught my nan wrapping up a present for me.
Oh, no.
And, of course, I knew that I shouldn't be seeing it.
It's like seeing Jesus in the shower, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Like,
yeah.
Oh, hang on, I'm not supposed to be seeing this.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So I pretended I hadn't seen it. And I saw my nan sort of scrabble around to sort of put some wrapping paper over it, to cover it up.
Yeah.
So she was obviously taken by surprise, and I saw what it was, and it was a Harold Hare annual.
Harold Hare?
Harold Hare, yeah. It was sort of like Bugs Bunny type of character. I think he was in Play Hour or something like that, or Jack and Jill, one of those comics, one of those young kids comics. I loved Harold Hare, and I thought, half of me was thinking, oh, I've got Harold Hare, and the other half was like, oh, I don't want to know that. Let's sport it now. Let's tarnished it,
Well, it's very interesting you say that, because a few years later, probably about 65, by that time we moved into our grocer's shop, and we had it's like a spiral staircase, and at the bottom of the staircase was a place where you'd store boxes. And
oh, yeah. I bet that was quite fun as a kid, wasn't it, having that area?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah.
But it was where my mum would store stuff. And I remember in the lead up to Christmas, she'd obviously put some stuff in there, kind of tried to cover it up. But if you went up the stairs and looked down, you could kind of just see behind the cover. And I remember looking down and just seeing the top of a box which said Palatoy Action Man.
Action Man.
And when I looked down at it,
right.
I remember thinking, Action Man, I'm not supposed to be seeing that.
Yeah.
So am I really seeing that?
You're almost in denial about it, aren't you?
Does that mean that's what I'm going to get? No, I can't believe I'm going to get that.
You don't want to believe it.
I could see it, but I couldn't accept that it was real.
Yeah. And the other thing is to acknowledge that your parents had arranged this present, it was there in waiting.
Yeah.
That would almost acknowledge that you knew that the old chap didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So part of the dream was being tarnished, but at the same time it was exciting. So I just didn't want to know about it, really.
Yeah, that's right. You really don't, do you? So I pretended I hadn't seen that Harold Hare annual right up until Christmas. I mean, it was still a great present and all that. But, things like that, you can't help sometimes. You just stumble onto something by accident.
Yes.
Yes. But when you have a series of those little incidents like that throughout your childhood, it gradually chips away at this idea of what Christmas is, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then eventually you have to sort of give into it.
Yeah.
So that's when you get the Ember cream out.
Ember cream. Was that your solution to it then?
Well, it was for me personally.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing about Christmas. Now, my parents didn't drink at all.
No, mine didn't either.
Except at Christmas.
Yes, that's right.
So my dad would get a bottle of Ember cream sherry.
Same here, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Ember cream,
And there might be a bottle of Warnings Advocaat for my mum. And then I do remember one year my mum bought some Harvey's Bristol cream chocolate decorations for the tree.
That's quite lavish.
Yeah. So these little gold-coloured little things you hang on the tree. And it was a little chocolate, but it had Harvey's Bristol cream in it.
Right, okay. Were you allowed to eat them?
I think I was.
Right,
I didn't really like it.
Well, that's not important, is it?
I thought, well, this is good because this is what the grown-ups do, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's all that matters, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But then the idea of beer or wine, no.
It had quite a harsh taste, didn't it, to a kid? If you sipped a little bit of beer or wine or something like that, you'd just pull a face, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
My parents, exactly the same as yours, they didn't drink, they didn't really go to pubs or anything like that throughout the year. We never had alcohol in the house other than Christmas, and probably, I think we had, my grandparents used to come around at Easter or something, so my dad would get a few things in. But as I say, it was the same as you. Ember cream was always the staple every year.
Yeah.
And my dad used to like Mackerson or Shandy, so he'll get some little bottles of Mackerson. We got lemonade and fizzy drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that my mum and my nan liked, they'd either have a snowball or egg flip.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, they
like yellowy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yes.
Weird thing. It was like liquid custard, sort of.
Yeah. But it all seemed very exotic, didn't it?
Yeah.
There probably wouldn't be anything like brandy, I don't think.
No, we wouldn't have spirits at all. I mean, my mum certainly wouldn't.
My uncle Scotty, who was a sergeant in the RAF, and he used to run the NAFI, and he was a bit of a drinker.
In charge of the NAFI and liked his drink. That's a bit like lunatic in charge of the asylum, isn't it?
Very good description. But if you went to his place, he would have bottles of Whitbread Pale Ale,
Oh, yes, right.
which I
right.
thought smelt and tasted disgusting
Yeah.
at the time.
There's a lot of things like that which have just disappeared, haven't they? I mean, do you get things like that, pale ale, and do you still get things like Long Life?
I haven't seen that for many years.
No.
Or Tuborg Lager, get some baby shams in.
Yeah, actually, that was one thing we did buy. My mum and my nan, they liked baby sham. Watered down with a drop of lemonade, though, you know.
It was pretty watered down already, wasn't it?
It was very moderate. I mean, they really didn't drink that much, you know. My mum, you know, she always lived in fear that she would drink something, it would go to her head, sort of thing, and she'd have have a horrible hangover, you know. So, of course, that kept her from drinking much at all, you know.
Yeah.
But a few days before Christmas, sometimes it was Christmas Eve, I used to go down to the off licence with my dad, and we were getting our Christmas drinks and that, and he would take a big, heavy, sort of duty canvas bag to get all the bottles in.
Smith's Crisp?
Yeah, Smith's Crisp.
Top Deck?
Yeah, Top Deck Shandy or Limeade and Lager.
Yeah. You know, alcohol wasn't really on the agenda, but the range of stuff is phenomenal now.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, the stuff that they had on display in an off-licence, I mean, you wouldn't have like a whole row devoted to red wine or white wine, for instance.
Oh, gosh, no. But almost all pubs had an off-licence next door, didn't they?
Yeah.
Off sales.
Off sales, that's right, yeah. Christmas Day was just shut down, wasn't it?
Pretty much completely, yeah.
I remember walking home one year with my dad on Christmas Eve, and we got all our stuff from the off licence, and that was the last port of call. It must have been like a greengrocers or florist or something like that. They left outside some wreaths of mistletoe and holly, the stuff that they hadn't sold, and left it outside for people to pick up.
Right.
And it felt like that was the very last thing, you know, everything was just gone into shutdown, you know. That was your last chance now. If you hadn't got everything like that, you wouldn't get it, you know. Finally, Christmas Eve arrived. What would be the routine for you on Christmas Eve?
Well,
do you see friends on Christmas Eve?
I probably would do. And your mum would be in the kitchen, but there'd be a sense of things being prepared, you know.
The Christmas food preparation went on quite a while, didn't it? I remember a day or two before she made the Christmas cake and then put the icing on and all that. I mean, your dad had finished work for the holiday, but your mum's work would just carry on, wouldn't it? Because she'd be ploughing away in the kitchen.
Yeah. I remember we did used to decorate the shop itself as well. We'd have tinsel and...
Oh, yeah.
I think my dad might have come home a bit earlier on Christmas Eve. We might have closed at lunchtime, maybe.
Right. Actually, that's what my dad did. I think he finished work at lunchtimes on Christmas Eve. And then that was sort of like the moment when Christmas began, really.
Yeah.
And we would go up to the local greengrocers and get our supply of Christmas fruit and veg and sort of thing, stuff like that. You know, because before we had a fridge, you had to buy your vegetables quite near to the time you're going to use them, you know, in case they went off.
Yeah. Well, my dad would probably have gone down to the sweet shop on the corner and bought a box of chocolates or something.
That's something my dad used to always get a big box of chocolates for my mum for Christmas.
Yeah, and just get home and then go to bed at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
So that you hoped that Christmas would come quicker.
That's right, yeah.
Did you have candles?
Yeah, we did have candles occasionally. Yeah, we used to light them on the table while we had our Christmas dinner. Did you used to buy a present for your parents?
Yes, I did. And I used to go into Boots or Timothy White's.
How did you know what they wanted?
Well, I didn't know what they wanted, but I assumed that what they would like would be one of those glossy little packs that had a bit of soap, a bit of shampoo, and maybe a bath cube in it.
Yeah.
And I used to think they looked really exotic and wonderful.
Yeah,
and it might have a ribbon around it. And it's actually quite cheap and really nasty and naff.
Yeah.
And I would take it home and I would carefully wrap it up.
Yes. So did you get these out of your pocket money? Or?
Yeah, I would have saved up my pocket money.
Because what used to happen with me was, when I was younger anyway, and I didn't have pocket money, my mum would give me some money to buy presents for her and my dad.
Oh, right. Sort of like a circular argument.
Defeats the object really in a bit, doesn't it? You know, she used to sort of pretend that, you know, I was buying them really, you know. Later on, when I did have pocket money, I remember buying my mum a set of drinking glasses and a box of contrast chocolates one year.
Well, you see, contrast, class.
Yeah.
Well, implied class.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But then there are other things
Yeah.
on Christmas Day that would be totally abhorrent to me. Eat me dates.
Oh, well, in my case, it would be don't eat me, you know. I mean, that was the last thing I'd be doing, would be eating them.
And it would be in a polystyrene box. There was that long, slim plastic.
Like a fork thing,
Like
wasn't
a
it?
fork thing.
Yeah,
With like palm trees on the
Yeah.
cover.
They were trying to sell like a lifestyle, weren't they? Sort of like, this is tropical, exotic food. You
Have
know.
one of these with your martini.
That's right, yeah.
But what is this?
Oh,
Why would anybody eat these?
Really sort of sticky, gooey sort of. My parents used to just polish them off. They used to get through one after the other.
Yeah.
And they used to offer them to me, and I just used to pull a face.
Quite sickly.
They're like grown-up sweets, aren't they? They're a bit like that.
Yes.
How many white Christmases do you remember? Because I can only remember about 2.
Very few.
Yeah.
I think 68, was that a white Christmas?
Well, I've got a feeling it was about then. It might have been 67, because from where we were living at the time, we had big lounge windows, which really looked out onto the back garden. I remember looking out, and it was completely white everywhere.
Yeah,
It was a real classic white Christmas.
Yep.
You know, like a Christmas card.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few. I think I would have been 10, so I think it was about 67.
Yeah.
And I think there was one a little bit later than that. They're the only ones I really remember.
Yeah. I mean, going way back to sort of 62, 63, when there was that really bad winter.
Oh, yeah, there was.
That
wasn't
might have been one.
It could have been. Could well have been, couldn't it? I'm a little bit too young to remember.
Probably, yeah.
One way or the other, you know.
Yeah, but there have been very few.
On Christmas Eve, I put the pillowcase on the end of my bed with my mum or something, you know, before I went to bed.
Yeah.
How my presents were given, like my parents would put them in like a big pillowcase, and they'd be at the foot of my bed. But I used to get this smaller stocking as well, which they put at the foot of the tree in the front room, which had like bars of chocolate and selection boxes and satsumas and things like that in there. You know.
Yes. Well, you see, I had a brother and a sister who were older than me.
Yeah.
So when we got up in the morning, came downstairs, still with our pyjamas on.
Yeah.
On the settee, there were 3 pillowcases with little labels on the front.
Oh, right.
For me and my brother and my sister.
Right, they were on the settee, weren't they?
They were laid out on the settee.
Oh, okay.
And that was, nirvana.
It's quite considerate of Santa, though, wasn't it, to put them all downstairs in the front room for you?
Yeah, at the end of my bed would be the Beano and Dandy annuals.
Of course, yeah.
And the Mars plastic stocking.
Because I used to keep my selection box. I would keep that for the afternoon. I wouldn't even start on that until after lunch, you know.
Oh, that shows a bit of discipline.
And I think partly my mum used to impress upon me, you don't want to spoil your appetite for your nice Christmas dinner, do you?
Well, that sounds
And
very
also,
sensible.
I think because I was so wrapped up in playing with my presents in the morning, I think the idea of eating just went out the window,
Yeah.
Did you keep any of your presents?
And I've still got some of my Beano and Dandy annuals.
Yeah.
But at the time, it had that lovely,
Yeah, the smell of the print, yeah.
It's almost like sniffing petrol or something like that. It was kind of like very heady and, exciting.
Yeah.
And now, of course, sadly, when you open it up, it's got that kind of musty, horrible old musty smell.
So did you get Beano and Dandy annuals every year?
Every year, certainly throughout the 60s.
Right, okay.
And I think it went as far as 72.
And when did it start?
The first one would have been 62, probably.
So you went to 10 years then, a full 10
Yeah,
years? Right. As your brother and sister were older than you, as you were growing up, you must have seen like the sort of change in their attitude to Christmas as they grew out of it.
They kind of drifted away, but I was quite happy if I had my Tommy gun or something else from Palatoy. I've still got my Robert Harbin origami paper and the book that goes with it.
Right.
Still got both of those.
Robert Harbin.
Yeah, and it's still in the cellophane wrapper.
Right. Early Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Still in bed. I can remember waking up at regular intervals. It's still dark. I can remember my bedroom. I used to see like a shaft of light coming in through the window, and it would cast light on the end of my bed, where the pillowcase was lying. And I'd wake up and I'd sort of open one eye or something, and maybe about 5 a.m. or something, and has he been yet? And I would see the pillowcase, and I'd look down there and I'd see, no, it's laying flat still, and it was still, slack and empty. So, no, No, he hasn't been yet. So I'd probably try and sleep for a little while. Then a little bit later, maybe 6 a.m. Has he been yet? No, not yet. And maybe half an hour later, has he been yet? And then suddenly I see it there, and it was still in the same place, but it was bulging.
Ah,
You know,
bin.
oh, he's been. So of course, as soon as I saw that, wouldn't matter what time it was, the fact that it was there, I'd jump out of bed, run into my parents' bedroom straight away. Mum, Dad, Father Christmas has been. Can I have my presents? Can I have my presents? Oh, in a little while, Dino. Like half an hour, eh? Come back in half an hour.
Half an hour, that's an eternity.
Yeah, but they'd probably been up sort of half the night, sort of doing all this, sneaking in without me noticing. Yes, they probably wanted their sleep, didn't they? You know.
Well, I mean, when our boys were very young, you know, we'd be knackered. They'd come in at 5:30 in the morning.
That's right. When you know it's there, all the stuff I wanted, it was all there at the end of my bed.
Yeah.
No, could I wait another half an hour?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
So I used to take the whole pillowcase into my mum and dad's bedroom and sit on the bed and just open everything, and they'd fake surprise at what I was getting, you know.
Oh.
And I didn't even think about that at all, you know.
Remember, one of the toys we got when I was very young was this thing, and it was like a fishing game.
Yeah.
And it had like cardboard ring with pictures of fish on it.
I remember that.
And inside there were little fish, and each one had a little metal nose on it, and you had a fishing rod with a magnet on it.
Yeah.
And you used to have to drop it in.
Yeah.
And eventually it would pick up a fish.
Clamp.
And I just thought this is kind of magical. How did that happen? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. We were easily pleased sometimes, weren't we?
Remember, one of the toys I never got, but I really wanted, my friend Lee Barnes did get one,
Yeah.
was the robot teacher
The magic robot. I remember that.
on a little glass,
Little podium. Yeah.
like a green robot with a stick. And I can't remember what you had to ask questions.
It was general
And
knowledge. You had like a sheet of questions, and you put it on that like metallic podium. It had a pointer, didn't it? A baton.
Yeah.
And it used to swivel round to a question.
And it would
didn't
point. And I used to think this is unbelievable. How does it know?
Yeah.
I used to think it was magical.
It was, yeah.
There was always the toy to have, wasn't there, on a particular Christmas? I remember one year it was the Johnny 7 gun.
You know, I was just going to
rifle.
say that.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely lusted after one of those, and I never got it.
I never got
Too
one.
expensive.
But we had a friend just down the road whose family were obviously a bit better off.
Yeah.
And he would always get all the best.
Yes. Yeah. I had one of those friends as well.
Yeah. They're not really friends, are they?
No.
Bastards.
Yeah.
He got a Johnny 7 and he used to show it off. And,
That's right. It was huge, wasn't it? And it was loaded with gadgets and different attachments.
Little hand grenade launcher. And
that's right.
It was a machine gun.
Oh, I used to look at it and see him using it. You wouldn't let him know that you knew this, of course, but you used to think, if I had one of those, like my life would be complete. You know, that would be it.
You've just reminded me of a very early present we had. I think we had it as a family. It wasn't just for me.
Right.
It was Bruce Forsyth's Beat the Clock.
What, from Sunday night at the London Palladium?
Yeah, and it was some kind of game. It was a bit like bingo or something.
Oh,
but I had no interest in the game.
Yeah.
But it came with a clock.
Oh, clock, yeah.
And it had two levers on the side. One was a curved lever and the other one was a straight lever. And if you press the curved lever, it would start the clock ticking.
Oh, right.
And then if you press the straight lever, it would put the clock back to zero.
Like a stopwatch, really.
Like a stopwatch.
Yeah.
And I would endlessly turn the thing on, let it go, and then press the other one, and it would shoot back to zero.
It's like you're controlling time. That's what it is, isn't it?
That's right. I was a Time Lord, but the clock absolutely fascinated me.
Yeah.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we sort of grew up with television, didn't we? And all you saw on there was like clocks, you know, BBC clock and everything. And they always fascinated me. So I suppose to have control over your own clock would have been a really big thing at that age.
Yeah.
I did have some nice presents. Probably the best present of all of them was 1971. I got a reel-to-reel tape recorder for the first time.
Oh, that's a pretty special present.
Yeah, I think my dad had seen one in an electrical shop near where he worked. I remember him taking me on the bus up there to have a look at it. I think it was like a shop model. Got it slightly cheaper. It was a decent Philips reel-to-reel machine, and I got about 10 years of use out of that.
Mm.
What would you say are particularly notable Christmas presents from over the years?
Well, there was one. I mean, I must have been very young. I was probably 4 or 5. My parents bought me this plastic lorry, and I was absolutely fascinated by it because the cab at the front of the lorry had a door, and the door on the other side actually opened.
Actually opened. Oh, steady on.
And I just was fascinated by the fact that you could open the door and then close the door.
Just that.
Just that.
Yeah.
Kept me amused for hours.
Right. Your parents were probably happy that you were so easily pleased.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for that moment when I was able to open my presents, in the
Oh.
morning. I couldn't contain myself. It was
Yeah.
all open in front of me, wrapping paper all over the floor and everything,
Yeah.
But when I used to see what my parents got for Christmas, I used to think, I can't see what they get out of it, because I used to get like socks and things like that.
Or a shaving kit.
Yeah, and you think,
Yeah.
well, why can't you get something that's fun?
Surely you want toys.
Yeah. I used to wait until after Christmas dinner in the afternoon to open theirs, and I used to think, how can you contain yourself?
Yeah. How boring is that?
But of course, it related to the presents they got,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was almost like they knew as well. They'd almost made an arrangement between them. It's like, I'll get you those earrings and you get me that quarter of tobacco or something. It's like,
yeah.
One of the earliest big presents I got, I suppose I must have been about 5 years old, was probably Chad Valley record player.
Oh.
Battery operated.
Ah. Now you're talking about stuff in the back of the Grattan's catalogue.
Oh, really?
Which you would drool over, but never actually own.
Oh, right. So you used to see it in there, did you?
Oh, yeah. That's impressive, that is.
And it used to play those records, Gala Golden Tone. They were like bright orange colour records.
Oh.
And they used to have things like nursery rhymes and people telling stories on them and that. I mean, later on, when I found out that you could play ordinary pop singles on there, I repurposed it a bit when I got older,
Yes.
I remember actually opening it on Christmas morning, sitting on my parents' bed, and putting the batteries in for the first time. And the first record we put on was Farmers in the Dell. I remember my dad just laughing because, it just amused him, it tickled him. Do you remember the Chad Valley Give a Show projector?
Oh.
That was a nice present.
Just as you said that,
yeah,
I've just seen a picture of a little child's face with the little pictures going across.
Yeah.
I think my friend Terry Mitchell had one of those.
Yeah.
And I was very jealous.
It had a strip of transparency on a piece of card and you used to feed the card through the projector. Right. And it was like having your own cinema.
God. Yeah, well, again, this is another Grattan's catalogue thing that I would lust after.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Together with the Cadbury's chocolate dispenser.
Oh, yeah. I had that as a present as well. So this is probably taunting you, telling you about all these presents I got that were in your mum's catalogue.
But just looking through the Grattan's catalogue was almost like Christmas in itself. Just gazing at the pictures and just kind of dreaming.
So it was really a catalogue of presents that you never got.
You're never going to get these.
I remember wanting like a cowboy gun, with that fired caps.
Oh, yeah.
My parents wouldn't let me have a gun because they consider that too dangerous or a bad influence or something.
Yes. One of the presents that I got on a fairly regular basis was a plastic Tommy gun. Do you remember them?
Oh, yeah.
And it had a cartridge with these kind of grey coloured plastic bullets that you would push in, and it had a little sight on it. And I used to lie on the floor and I used to get all my little colouring pencils, and I would stand the pencils up a few feet away from me, and I'd lie down and pretend I was a sniper.
This was a Christmas present.
This was a Christmas present, yeah. A murder weapon.
Your parents are quite happy to sort of buy you guns, weren't they?
Oh, yeah. It was all about guns and Action Man and rifles. And the other one used to get was a spud gun, which is like a little black revolver, and you would push it into a potato and you could fire bits of potato at your friends. Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons my parents wouldn't get it for me, because I think they thought I'd fire it at people. That's probably the reason I didn't get a Johnny 7 gun as well.
Well, Johnny 7, that was the one that we
paid homage to it, didn't we, that one? A bit later in the 60s, I remember getting I suppose it was the next step on from the Give a Show projector, and I got an actual toy movie projector.
Movie projector?
Yeah. I think it was the one where you cranked the handle and you used to get little reels of 8mm film, I suppose, and Laurel and Hardy and cartoons and things like that. Mm-hmm. There's only like little 5-minute reels in that, but it was actually real moving images.
Magical, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to see a moving image, it's like, where's that come from? Where is it?
Yeah. That reminds me of another present, actually. Viewmaster, do you remember that?
Well, I do remember Viewmaster. Yeah. My friend Terry Mitchell had one.
He seemed to get a lot of the presents that you wanted, didn't he? I've still got one. Really? I've actually got it, yeah. Little wheels of little slides, weren't they?
And as you're saying that, I can just imagine putting the slide in and pressing it down and it clicks so it's in place.
That's right. I've got one set which had Adam West Batman in it.
Yeah.
I mean, when Batman was on television, it was in black and white, of course. So you're seeing it in full colour in these like lifelike, three-dimensional colour images. Julie Newmar as Catwoman, which was a bonus.
Oh, wow. Then, of course, on Christmas morning, we put the telly on, and it'd be Rolf Harris presenting presents to children and children's
that's
hospital,
right.
which
Leslie Crowder did it as well, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
Yes. I mean, my mum, she lapped all that stuff up, and I think she thought it was good for me to know that there are people less well off than me, at Christmas, which probably was, but at the same time, it didn't exactly cheer you up at Christmas, seeing that.
No, really, what you really wanted was the Beatles or, Secret Squirrel.
Yeah, Secret Squirrel.
You didn't really want to see children in hospitals, even though,
I remember this was 1966. There's no breakfast television or anything. Pretty unprecedented at that time, but Really Fusion opened up at 7 a.m. on Boxing Day.
Wow, on Boxing Day?
Yeah. Well, I had it on. I put it on. I remember seeing Redvers Carl welcoming everybody to Christmas programmes. But they only did it that one year, though. Didn't do it any other years. And I had it on all the time, in the background while I was looking at all my presents. And it was just a little backdrop,
Well, of course, you would have the various Christmas specials.
Yeah.
TV, and then on top of the Pops, bands on, and they'd be wearing like a Santa outfit.
That's right, yeah. That was something I look forward to. And then it was time for Christmas dinner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for us, it would probably be about 2:00, I reckon.
For Christmas lunch, my mum used to make swede and carrot mash.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah, that's nice, yeah.
And it was always a turkey. Dad would carve the turkey. It's a bit of a ritual.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was always the man, wasn't it, that did the carving?
Yeah.
He used to stand at the head of the table and do that. But there's some sort of tradition about it, wasn't it?
Yeah. It had to be him. And then afterwards, he had this really horrible stuff called Christmas pudding.
Did you not like it then?
For me, the taste was too overpowering. It was just too much,
We used to have it with white sauce, but that counterbalanced the richness of the pudding.
And they put sixpence in there, didn't they?
Yes, they did, didn't they? That's right, yeah.
That's health and safety.
Yeah, that's right. I can remember when I was really young, my mum and my nan, they used to make the Christmas puddings, and they used to do it a few weeks beforehand, didn't they?
That's right. It used to kind of sit, didn't it?
And it used to be steamed for hours and hours, didn't it? They used to put it in a muslin and everything.
That's right.
That was in the days before pressure cookers.
Did they pour brandy on it and set fire to the brandy?
No, because they weren't really great drinkers. But, it's an odd thing when you used to get to about this point in Christmas Day, though, sort of just after lunch.
Yeah.
I used to feel that Christmas Eve was magic and it was really special. But when you actually got to Christmas Day, there was a sort of reality about it. It felt different after that.
Yeah, it was still kind of quite special until then.
And then
it's done. There's nothing more to come now. So you're trying to kind of keep it alive.
You are, aren't you? You're trying to, yeah.
But then you might be lucky, and on Boxing Day you might have a relative visiting, and they might bring presents with them.
Yes, but that's just about getting a few more presents, isn't it? The mystique of Christmas, it was all about Santa's coming and hope of getting a white Christmas, and it was all that. But that evaporated on the 25th, and it became something else after that.
Thing is, Christmas afternoon was a little bit like the Sunday dead zone, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because you'd had all your presents.
Yeah.
You've had your Christmas dinner.
And then it was time for the Queen's Christmas message at 3:00.
Yeah.
Which my mum used to watch faithfully. My dad would read his paper because he just wasn't interested, but he would just sort of sit there ignoring it for a quiet life,
Yeah.
I used to think it was quite depressing, So it did feel like Sunday afternoon, yeah.
It did. There's quite a big overlap there.
Yeah.
And there's no way you're going to see your mates on Christmas Day.
No way. Never ever saw anybody on Christmas Day.
And I remember the Rolf Harris Christmas show in 1968.
Very specific.
Well, the reason I remember it was because it was Apollo 8 was on its way to the moon.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And a bit like Crackerjack, they'd always have some kind of musical theatre number where they'd be dancing and they'd be playing characters.
Yeah.
And Rolf Harris, I think he might have been doing his Jake the Peg thing. Somebody says something to him. I can't remember what they said, but his response was, "Oh, that's ridiculous. That's as likely to be happening as if somebody was just going around the backside of the moon. That's ridiculous." Right. And he said that because Apollo 8 was on its way to the moon.
Yeah. Christmas evening was very TV focused, wasn't it?
That was it, really.
And this used to really puzzle me because in the weeks leading up to Christmas, you had all these Christmas adverts on television. And come Christmas Day, they suddenly all changed. And they'd all be talking about holidays and the sale that starts tomorrow on Boxing Day.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It happened straight away, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they started talking about summer holidays. Well, why are they talking about
Yeah.
summer holidays? It's still
Yeah.
Christmas.
Filling the coupon in your TV Times now. And it would just be a continuous flow of all these adverts about come to Selfridge's sale tomorrow.
Yeah. I remember Christmas 1968 very well. So I was 11 and we were living in the shop.
Yeah.
And my parents that year had bought me a proper grown-up briefcase for me to take to school. And they bought me a book about West Ham United, which I put in the briefcase. And they bought me a little case of pencils with West Ham United written on it in gold leaf.
Right.
And it had a Subbuteo goal and a plastic football. And my sister was in America at the time.
Right.
So her bedroom, which was upstairs, it was quite a big room, but I was able to use her bedroom as my little playground.
That was nice of her to go abroad so you could use her room, wasn't it?
Yeah. So every sort of 20 minutes or half an hour, I'd go upstairs, I'd open up my briefcase, I'd take out the West Ham United book, have a look in the book, and then I'd pretend to score some goals with my Subbuteo goal. And then I'd close the briefcase and I'd go back downstairs, watch a bit more Morecambe Wise. And then about 20 minutes later, I'd come back up again, open up the bag, take out the book, like a little ritual.
Yeah, I detect enthusiasm for your new presents here.
Yeah.
I mean, for me and my parents, late afternoon, it was always a tradition. We used to go around to my nan and granddad's for Christmas tea.
To me, it would be really a little bit like a Sunday evening.
It was very much like a Sunday,
Yeah.
you know, with all
Yeah.
the tinned salmon and fancy cake and everything.
Oh yeah, get the piccalilli out, and then we would probably have a cup of tea from a bone china cup for best.
Bone china.
Yes.
It was illegal to have those any other time other than Christmas evening.
Yeah, after tea, we'd sit down in front of the telly and we'd watch Christmas Night with the Stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody would put on paper hats, you know, and have a glass of Babysham or shandy for me or something, you know.
Yeah, it was very much sort of family, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What I would tend to do in the evening, I'd sort of disappear upstairs with some of my toys and games and just try to adjust to the fact that I've had all my presents now, I'm not going to get any more. So it was actually quite a melancholy feeling about Christmas evening, I think.
Boxing Day was all focused on sport, wasn't it? You used to have there was usually like grandstand or horse racing or something going on. And my dad and my granddad would probably have a bet, you know.
Yeah. Or you might have Billy Smart's circus.
You would, wouldn't you? You would. Yeah, and we'd be trying to escape that, of course, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And you'd have Disney time introduced by someone like Lulu or Val Durnican or somebody like that.
My grandparents would come on Boxing Day because we went to them on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So it was a bit like a rerun of Christmas Day, except that you'd already opened your presents kind of thing.
Yeah. That's right.
The day after Boxing Day, it was back to normal, wasn't it? I can remember my dad going straight back to work after that.
Yeah, you're sort of in limbo for a few days.
It didn't feel quite like Christmas was over, did it, until you were past New Year's Eve?
And you didn't really know what day it was, did you?
No.
When I was sort of in full-time employment, you'd always look at the Christmas calendar and see if you could get a bridge between Christmas Day and Boxing Day through to New Year. And if it worked out that you only needed 3 days annual leave to get you from one to the next,
Right.
it would be like you'd have about 8 or 9 days off in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And you've only used up 3 days annual leave. So that was always the ideal if you could get away with it.
Did it work?
Well, very rarely. And then, of course, with the school, I mean, you would have been off until early January.
Yeah. Don't think the holiday was as long as it is now.
No.
But you were trying to counterbalance the fact that Christmas ended so quickly, just with a crash, didn't it?
Yes.
After all that build-up, once Boxing Day was over, that was it.
Very much.
After Christmas, immediately afterwards, like you get out of school programs on television, wouldn't you?
Yes, that's right.
But it sort of reminded you that school was on its way soon.
no.
You know? It's a horrible thing, wasn't it? I can remember meeting up with friends afterwards and comparing what sort of Christmas presents we got. You know, that was quite interesting. Yeah, Christmas felt very much like an extended Sunday.
Yeah.
When did the penny start to drop with Christmas? And when did it start to lose its magic for you?
I think that would have been around the last year when we were in our shop. So about 14, 15.
Oh, right. Quite late, actually.
But when we got to about 72, I think it was still okay, but then once we'd moved,
It felt like the end of an era.
yeah, very much, yeah.
Yeah. And what prompted you to kind of like regard it differently?
I think cider, girls, and football.
Oh, right. So it wasn't a sudden awakening that, oh, there's no such thing as Santa or any of this sort of stuff.
I suppose that had been going on gradually.
Yeah.
You get to that point where you want to appear to be grown up, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to look like your older brother.
Yeah.
And, my older brother, he had a job and money and girlfriend. And I thought, well, I want to be like that. I want flared trousers and I want to listen to records.
Yes. Well, I wanted that, but I think Christmas gradually eroded for me, but earlier than that, probably starting in the late 60s, and probably one particular event, which kick-started me on the road to disillusionment, probably when I was about 10, something like that. Early Christmas morning, I was lying in bed, same as I had all the other years, watching the pillowcase at the end of my bed with the shaft of light on it, waiting for it to be filled up with the presents.
Yeah.
And I remember opening my eyes, or opening one eye, to see if, the old chap had been yet.
Yes.
And I shut them very, very quickly again, because what I saw was my dad filling the pillowcase.
Oh, right.
He crept in and he was just filling it up. And I was in denial. It's like, didn't see that. No, it wasn't that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that.
I
was listening to Ricky Gervais talking about when he was a similar age.
Right, okay.
And he had quite a religious upbringing, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. And one day he was reading this book and it had pictures of Jesus in it. And he said he knew the moment when he stopped believing in God. And his older brother came in the room and saw him reading this book.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "What are you reading that rubbish for?" And his mum said to his brother, "Bob," like that, as if to say, "Don't tell him it's not real."
Mm-hmm.
And he said as soon as he's heard his mum say Bob, he knew that's it, this is all fake.
So it was an instant thing then?
For him, it was,
yeah. Right.
For me, I suppose it was a sort of a gradual realisation that...
Yeah, I think it was a gradual thing for me as well. I mean, for a couple of years after I'd seen my dad there, I didn't want to believe it. But I suppose I started to think, oh, I can see that it's probably the truth.
Yeah.
But I've got this one clear memory of when the spell was suddenly broken and I couldn't see it coming. Christmas Eve, 1970. So I was 13.
Right.
Yeah, it was about lunchtime. I was standing at a bus stop. I was waiting to get a bus home for lunch. And as I was standing there, I was thinking, this is Christmas Eve. It doesn't feel special at all. And I hadn't experienced that before. The year before, 1969, when I'd had the movie projector, I think, and it was traditional Christmas for me. But in that year, something had changed. It was completely out of my control. I didn't want the magic to go.
Yes.
Standing at the bus stop, at that moment, I just had a light bulb going above my head, and I thought, is this how it's always going to be from now on?
The magic had gone.
It had.
And I mean, like these days, I don't really want Christmas presents now.
No.
Like Julie might say, "Oh, well, what do you want for Christmas?" I say, "Well, if you buy me something, it's just something else I've got to find somewhere to put."
Yeah.
And I've got enough stuff. I don't really need any stuff.
And you just turned into your parents, haven't you? Because, it's like you're getting those socks or whatever it is that they used to get.
And it's like, you don't need to buy me socks because I've got hundreds of already.
Yeah. I mean, I had some nice Christmases in adult life. I mean, they weren't like the childhood ones at all, but they were nice in a different way, but they didn't sort of replace the fact that, it felt like the magic had gone, and I was always looking for that again, but it never came back.
And then, of course, with the school, I mean, you would have been off until...
I think we went back early January, didn't we?
And there we must leave them. Time to go home now. Why not pop in again soon to revisit some more old memories at the Time Warp Tavern. Last orders, please.